Hello, everybody. Welcome. We have a special guest on today, and it's a really important message. This is my friend Corey, and Corey's going to talk about uh, what happened with the aftermath of Charlie Kirk being murdered, and a great leader, a great man, and a family man. And there's so much more to discuss beyond what we're going to discuss here today because it's still in my mind crazy that the viewpoints people have about this and the things making people are making up about this. But right after he was murdered, people started to applaud what happened. And Corey posted something on his Facebook page, and I wanted to talk to him about that. So, Corey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Uh, so, Corey, tell us what led you to post what you post and what exactly you posted.
Yeah, for me, I've watched Charlie Kirk for years and always been has been an inspiration. We were actually at America Fest last year. I didn't get to meet him personally, but my children met his wife Erica and just had a great interaction with her, and they were just excited telling me. And for me, as I've watched and followed Charlie Kirk over the years, the way he was able to go into college campuses and speak and have open dialogue, debate those who disagreed with him, I always valued that. I always had a lot of respect for Charlie Kirk because of what he was able to do in going into a place like a college campus. And I was in college, 20 years ago, and it was a lot different. Still, you got some of the stuff going in, to the college campuses. And my wife shared some things with me about her experience in college as you can kind of start to see things shift. And so I always respected him again for going onto these campuses and sharing. And that's really where a lot of people learned about Charlie Kirk. And, he would just say, prove me wrong. If I'm wrong, show me. And I always liked how when someone would share something that he was like, that's a great point. And it would help him to kind of see because he talked to so many people with differing views, black, white, Hispanic, didn't matter, gay, straight, whatever. He would have the conversation and try to be as respectful as possible. And I always liked that. And so when he was assassinated, just the work that I do professionally, the amount of people I'm around who are affected by it, it took me a little bit of time, just in grieving something like this happening. You're not talking about someone who dies of natural causes. Oh, Charlie Kirk got sick and then he passed. Those are different. You're talking about someone who was assassinated on live stream in person that 3,000 plus people, plus the thousands of people who saw it, and now the millions of people who have seen it. That's fairly devastating, and especially when you're talking about a family man who's married, has a wife, two young children, that they're now fatherless and she's a widow. And I think about that, and that always that affected me. And I took a little bit of time to post because as I started to see things online of what people were saying about Charlie Kirk, he's a racist, he's a misogynist, he hates people, he's hateful. And I thought, not only is this, slandering someone's character, but it's also as believers, you're talking about people who are bearing false witness. And if you, behold yourself to the laws of God and you say, well, I'm going to share this false information about someone that I don't know, that's a bearing false witness that it should not be coming out of our mouth. And so when I decided to post, I decided to focus more on this loyalty to party and the fact that we're to be loyal to God, we're to be loyal to Him, to His commandments, and to following Him and following after the Messiah in those areas. And where is His heart? What would He say about something like this? And it really bothered me that so much of that was being shared. And I saw a lot of my friends, posting online and getting a lot of flack from people. Oh, he was racist, and you're racist for liking him. And it's like, wait a minute, wait a minute, we're throwing around this term racism like it's just an adjective that describes somebody, and it's beyond that. And that's why I had mentioned in my post this idea of the semantic bleaching of that word, where racism has meaning. It used to have a lot more meaning than it does now. And to call someone a racist white supremacist like Charlie Kirk of all people, I had to post something, but still in honor of Charlie Kirk. I didn't want it to focus too much on those areas, but I wanted to make a point that we're really dealing with, theology in a lot of areas, but also these party lines. I'm going to be loyal to this party, even though this particular party has destroyed the black community for decades. I'm going to call Charlie Kirk racist of all people. And I think we misapply that term to where it really should be. And Charlie Kirk getting the brunt of that was the reason why I really wanted to post something.
Not that it makes it right, but with all of the misinformation that's being shown and passed around because of clips taken out of context, if somebody was seeing many of those clips out of context, can you blame people for their reactions to those clips? I mean, the people are guilty of not doing their own research and coming to a judgment. But I mean, there's a saying, seeing is believing, or one, picture's worth a thousand words. But in a lot of these clips online, if I didn't know who he was, I'd be like, this is what the guy said. So,
Yeah.
like, what do you tell the like? But the thing is, they don't want to look at. I said, look at the full context of things before you come to judgment, and
Yeah.
that's what more people are more, I think, guilty of than anything else. What would you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the result of society today, right? I mean, short form content, shorts online, reels, things that are quick, things I can consume really fast to just go about my day. That's just what we're used to. And so if you see someone you've never heard of before, a Charlie Kirk, and you say, "Oh, he's racist. He just said this," and someone shared this clip with me, it's up to us. Now we can receive that information, and that's totally fine. You're going to get that information, but it's another thing to then share, "Oh, yeah, he's racist." At that point, it doesn't matter what you received. You are now claiming something that's not true, something that actually and it's up to you to do a little bit more research before you share it. I'm not saying you can have that personal view. You can have that view all day, but once you go out and you share that with people and the masses, you've got people with huge followings sharing that false information. That's now on you, and that's a problem that we have in our society that I think is there. But yeah, if someone's sharing something with you, you take it. Oh yeah, he's racist, and you move on. One, we're throwing that term racist around again. Racist because of what you say, which is obviously a clip. I would want to know, okay, what else did he say? What was the question? What did they ask? What was the conversation? I would want that in general to make sure I'm not accusing someone of something as big of a deal as racism, white supremacy. Those terms are not ones that should be taken lightly. And I think that's the part where it's on the individual for sharing that information that they need to do their research.
After doing the research on other people, not Charlie, but other people, and you did determine that this person had negative tones to what they were saying and believed that that person believed it, do you think it's justified after doing the research of sharing something like that to warn other people?
I think in a normal sense, it would be justified if you said, "Hey, I did the research and this is what I found, and I conclude that he is a hateful, racist, white supremacist." If you were to do your research and find that out, I would love to see where you found it. I would love to see the clips. I would love to see the full clip. I really would, because it does not exist. And that's the part that is really appalling about this situation is that you can have your personal opinions, absolutely. But if you're going to do the research and still come out and say, "Oh yeah, he's a racist, bigot, and he's, a white supremacist." Again, you have no true context to saying that. You are now just lying about someone that you don't even know based on clips that you've likely taken out of context there as well. So no, in Charlie Kirk's case, there's no justification for it because it's untrue. Now, if there was someone who we don't have hours and hours of footage, I mean, we're talking hours and hours of footage of him communicating with all types of people lining up to talk with him, black, white, again, all types of colors of skin, and they're having conversations. If he is a white supremacist, you wouldn't see that. It would just not fit the description of someone who is a white supremacist. So it's just, again, it's just false. It's falsely attacking someone's character who cannot defend themselves now because they're dead. They were murdered. They were assassinated. So to then jump on that person's character and find this as an opportunity is a sick kind of wicked type of mentality that I don't understand. I would say if I was on the other side and I say, look, he's dead. I'm not going to attack his character. He can't defend himself. And I'm going to let his wife and his children mourn. I'm just going to back off. But no, we're going to double down on these areas. And it really shows the person who's doing that, how off they are in their ability to reason and have critical thinking.
How politically motivated do you think these people are, considering where we are in the world today with politics, and that Charlie Kirk's views were in line with one side? How politically uh, fueled do you think a lot of these judgments are?
I think they're actually, that's one of the main reasons. And that's if in the context of my post, the big thing I'm talking about, like I said, if Charlie Kirk were a Democrat spewing anti-God rhetoric and pro-LGBT views and falsely interpreting the Bible, using the Bible out of context to establish, things like the murder of babies through abortion or transgender reassignment surgeries and things like that, he'd be celebrated because on that side of the aisle, that is something that is currently celebrated. But because he's not on that side, you automatically get a lot of that vitriol simply because he, specifically being a Republican and a Trump supporter, and single-handedly his organization helping to really swing the youth vote in onto the right for this previous election, there's going to be a target when you're doing something like that, and that unfortunately is where we are today. And that's why my post ultimately is talking about this loyalty to a party where you don't even think about these individuals and who they are because, oh, if he's on this side, he's automatically this anyway. He's guilty until proven innocent anyway. And so if the videos you're watching don't show the other side, you're going to, oh, yep, that just validates my view of this person that I don't even know when I can share with you dozens and dozens and dozens of other videos that are the opposite of that clip that you received. But since you've already made your judgment, you've already said what you needed to say. Unfortunately, a lot of it is fueled by the politics more so than it is the truth of who Charlie Kirk is.
How much does it help you to uh, discern other people if they're at least ignorant, but just the people that some have hate, some people, what side of the political thing they're on? How much does it
Yeah.
help you realize, like, hey, this is a person this is where this person's at in my mind because of supporting something like this?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, I definitely, when because I've gotten, flack for what I've posted and what I've said about it. And I know you have too. If you've got someone who's, their response to him when they talk about, oh, his views are this, and they go down the political side, I know it's all politics because they're not talking about Charlie Kirk. They're talking about what he said, and it ends up into these political terminologies and, his stance on abortion. Oh, he believes that, this should happen. Oh, his stance against LGBTQ is this. Okay, now you're turning this into a political ideology argument as opposed to who is this person? Because if we're going to do that and we're going to get into politics, we'll end up not talking about Charlie Kirk at the end. We end up talking about laws and these things that need to be done. And I know it's not a Charlie Kirk argument. They're just using Charlie Kirk as an example to get to the end of what their theology really is, and that Charlie Kirk was an enemy to that theology more so than being, a good human being who wanted to see America succeed no matter what the color of your skin is, no matter who you are. We're going to succeed when we all come together and unify. And that's what he's doing on these college campuses is to open up. There's another side, y'all. There's another side of thinking than what you've been taught, and he was trying to at least show that side.
Sure. When it's somebody like Charlie Kirk, who we've watched and know so much of his material online, and he's a family man and a believer. We know his values, so it's easy for you and I to support him because we know the truth in the matter.
Right.
But there are other characters that are out there that they've been clipped up and so on that we don't know personally or we don't know as much. Uh, is it easy for you to support at least the idea of the same context of you taking things out of context, do your research first? Like if you hear somebody on the internet in clips, let's say, for example, let's say Andrew Tate, for example. Do you know who this is?
Yes.
So at one point, he was the most listened to person online, and because of his clips, his clips certainly don't seem to always support biblical foundations.
Right.
But since we don't know him personally, how quick are you to I to come to judge somebody like him in terms of like, hey, we saw the clips and this is the type of person he appears to be. Do we fall for that as well, or do we can we like take a back seat and say, look, we can't judge him based on these clips. I need to see the full context of what he's saying before I come to a decision.
Yeah, and we should do that for anyone. I don't, these political biases, when you talk about partiality, the Bible is against partiality. You can't simply like someone only because they share your views, because anybody can make, decisions and change, and their behavior cannot match their words. So partiality is not something we should be doing anyway. I don't care which side you're on. And I'm going to take that approach. If it's a Tate or if it's anyone who's sharing conversations, I don't like short form content. I don't like clips. I want to know what's going on. What was the question? Who is this person? Can I get more information about who this person is? And as soon as you start to see these anti-biblical narratives being pushed, I usually check out at that point. I'm not going to go out and slander that individual and say things because it's not my place, and that's wrong on just on the same level of someone doing it to someone that I adore and appreciate, right? So we shouldn't do that on either side, but everyone should be wanting to, if it's a public figure. We're talking about public figures right now. Charlie Kirk, public figure. Andrew Tate, public figures. These are ones that you can find enough information online to get such a picture of who this individual is that we shouldn't have this, oh, well, I don't know who this person is. That's not an excuse at this point, not in 2025, not when we have so much information on public figures that we never had really in the past. So that's not an excuse. And you definitely don't just take someone, and I was talking to my wife about this, that sometimes, as a conservative, which I'm a conservative, I say lowercase c, capital C conservatives, they can do what they want. The politics are something I'll always be a part of just because of where we are in society. But I'm conservative biblically with my biblical values. And as soon as someone shares something that is against those values, I'm going to always take a second look and say, you know what? That's not someone I'm going to support. Can they say good things? Can they actually share things that are important and I believe? Yeah, that's right. But I'm not going to believe in them. I'm not going to follow their every word because I know that their core is not the same core that I have. And so we have to make sure we have our own core so that we know when someone goes against that, whether they're on your side or not, that you can speak out against it. And that's something that we don't do enough in our society today.
In the aftermath of everything that happened online, there was a black pastor who had a lot of negative things to say about Charlie Kirk. Seems to be jumping on the bandwagon. And as he was saying, you kind of heard cheers from the church he was talking at. Uh, what's your feelings when you see something like that? I mean, it doesn't matter what color the pastor is, but considering uh, you talked about the word racist, it's one thing when a white person is calling somebody a racist, but when a black person calls somebody a racist, does it change the narrative at all?
Unfortunately, in today's society, you've got these racial divides where a white person, can be racist, but a black person cannot be racist. We've changed the definition of what it means to be racist. When it used to be that you believe that your race is superior to another person's race, we've changed it to where it's not just superiority of race, it's who has the power over you. And in that case, no black person can be racist because they don't have power over white people. And it's a faulty logic of what that term has always meant in our society and the power of someone who believes their race is superior to another, which is where racism actually exists. And a lot of people confuse racism and prejudice, and they think, oh yeah, that person's racist. They could be prejudiced. But that doesn't make them racist. And I think that's the part that really gets confused. So usually when someone's describing racism, they're usually describing prejudice. That's really what they're describing. They just don't know it, unfortunately. And so if you've got a black person who's saying, oh, Charlie Kirk is racist, I don't care what you say about that. If you are actually a pastor that's supposed to be teaching the word of God and truth, that should never come out of your mouth that someone who is racist, they better truly be racist, and you better be able to back that claim up without clips. And that, unfortunately, is the problem with someone who would be in the pulpit sharing and slandering another individual who is a believer. Yeah, maybe he doesn't share the same political side as you, but he is a believer and he wants people to believe in God, follow Jesus, and do those things. And yet, all of a sudden, oh, he's racist, so I'm just going to slander him all the way through. That was appalling to watch a pastor do that sort of thing from the pulpit, not in a private setting. I thought that was really uncalled for in that sense. And so when we talk racism and we say, oh, a black person calling a white person racist, we're going to believe that black person 100% because he's black. He would know, of all people, he would know that that's racism. A white person wouldn't know because they don't know what it means to experience racism, so we're not going to take their word for it. Again, that goes back to that partiality and just assuming because someone's black that they can identify racism over someone who is white. Well, I'm black, and I'm saying that Charlie Kirk is not racist. And when I do that, do I? Oh no, he's an Uncle Tom. Oh, he's not really black. He's actually white because he supports Charlie Kirk. And you see how these straw man fallacies come in, undermining legitimate logical arguments that can exist because we want our narrative to be the one that wins out because that gets the claps, that gets the views, that gets the likes online. And you have your reward. As God says, you have your reward. You're doing these things to be seen by men. You have your reward. I want to make sure if I'm going to share information that it's true, that it's as much as out of my opinion and into what's actually happening. And that's something we need to do a better job of.
Absolutely. And Yeshua himself in the scriptures talk about this exact thing happening, where people would come against people that follow the principles and beliefs of Yeshua himself. Whereas if you and I just had this conversation on any topic and we discussed that we believe women are in the best position being at home raising children, the next thing you know, if we were popular, more popular on social media and are out there, we'd be both considered men that hate women or something,
Yes.
and that whole narrative. And it's the world we live in today. But not only though is it the ignorant people on the sides that are hearing that, but it's also, I think we need to take more responsibility uh, to know and realize the way the world is today and the way things are today, and present things in a way where anything can be turned around, but presented in a way like Yeshua had such a way of showing love. And I think Charlie did that in his videos. Regardless of what his belief was, he really truly did it with love. So much so that Trump said at his funeral that where they disagreed was Charlie loved his enemies, but Trump says, I hate my enemies. And it's just such a great quality for people to have, to be able to disagree with people but still show love at the same time. And it's a perfect echo of how Yeshua was. And I think Charlie was a great example of how to do that.
He was, and I think when you consider the teachings of Yeshua, which is what we're following, if you call yourself a believer, what did he teach? And that is something. Did Charlie Kirk embody this in every single aspect of his life? I didn't follow Charlie Kirk everywhere he went. He was not my rabbi, my teacher. But when you take who he was as a man and the organization that he built, people say, "Oh, he was just a podcaster. It's not a big deal." That's a flat out lie that he was just a podcaster. He built one of the largest organizations in the country, multi-million dollar organization that he ran very well and very efficiently and was known all over the world. His death is something that is felt all over the world. His life has been celebrated all over. No podcaster, just a simple podcaster, when you demean someone's character to the point where you just take all their accomplishments and make them nothing because you hate them that much, that's a sad place to be. And the teachings that Yeshua, traveled all over Judea to teach would go against that. And I think that's the part that was really bothering for me is that most of my friends being believers sharing that information shows that you don't love, let's say that you just despise Charlie Kirk. Okay, that's fine, whatever. He's your enemy. Okay, that's fine, whatever. But how does God command you to actually treat that enemy? Does he command you to laugh at him when he dies? Oh, I'm so happy that he's dead. Now we can move on. And this, does he? I don't want you to mourn him. You don't have to do that. No one's asking you to mourn him, but we are asking that you show proper respect to someone who has recently been murdered on a live stream by whoever it was, and still, the case is still, going through its process. But that is something that is not a way that a believer should behave in general. That's something we'd expect from a wicked person, not from someone who says, I profess faith in Yeshua and following him.
Absolutely. I'm full agreement with you. And I will post what you posted below the video for people to see themselves. And if anyone has questions or comments about this, please post them below in the link as well. And is there anything else you want to say about this topic, Corey, in closing here?
Yeah, one of the things that is in the post, and as I've been reading online, you've got all these, clips that are taken out of context, and I think you've done this, and a lot of people have. Show me the context. If you don't want to show me the context, let's have a conversation about it. Let's see where we agree. We might disagree on certain things. I understand. But one thing that's important, something that Charlie Kirk continually did up until the day that he was assassinated, is have an open dialogue with people who disagree. A fascist wouldn't be sitting down at a table saying, prove me wrong. That's not what fascists do. So throwing around that term fascist just because you think it sounds good shows how ignorant you can be about what a fascist actually does. They don't hear the other side. And he continually heard the other side to be able to say, you know what? Maybe we're wrong, but if we're not wrong and you're still going to continue to believe something when the facts have been presented, who's the actual fundamentalist? Who's the actual person who's willing to be unchanged in their opinion when they're presented with the truth and with facts? And so that's something that I'm always open for, that dialogue, having that conversation, with whether it's you, Paul, or anyone else who's willing to have that conversation. But I'm not going to take sound bites. I don't want you to take anything that I'm saying as a sound bite, but the context of what we're saying, that's how we respect the other side and making sure we're sharing the full context of a conversation.
Corey, thank you for being a guest and for sharing this. And everybody, put your comments or questions below. And thanks for being here, Corey.
You're welcome, Paul. Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. So if you want to contact Corey directly, you can contact him through his Facebook. I'll put his profile below. And I'll also check out what he wrote on Facebook at the link below as well. Until then, everybody, thanks for watching. Have a great day and shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Torah Life Ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.